All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Oregairu, Season 1, Episode 5. All right, the last episode we got Hayama Hayato in the spotlight.
Indeed, and it was a lot of fun. We got into some good studies of how these friends interact and all that stuff, and the fact that they aren't really friends with each other, just friends with him.
Yep, and that awkward thing of when the glue leaves and you're like, oh, what are we doing here? But
they resolved it, hopefully, by just having the glue leave, right?
Exactly.
And then, okay, there you go. He's going with Hachiman and Sai.
Yeah.
But depending on if the teacher approves it, they might be going
go to his
house.
Hachiman's house.
And given that the whole rest of the class seemed to want to go wherever Mr. Popular went,
right,
that might mean that Hachiman's house gets invaded by the entire class.
And then you'll have the little sister like, defending.
Or just being like, oh, kawaii koto, right. Oni-chan, or something like that.
No, that could be funny.
Yeah.
But also, we had a little bit more of a specific, perfect perspective with regards to things from Hachiman's backstory with regards to the accident. And we got to see... we discussed this a bit. We got to see the person who is the owner of the dog, didn't recognize them. However, I just wanted to bring this up as something that was potentially an identifying piece of info there, is that they had some kind of red, pink phone wallet thing.
We've been debating this constantly.
It's a phone.
I'm like, no, it's a purse or like a makeup holder or something. It's not a phone. And Caleb's like, it's a phone.
It's a phone.
It's got the sandwich way too big thing for a phone. That not even Nokia makes phones that thick.
Dude, you do not remember how phones used to be.
Oh, I remember, but that was...
You didn't have one, though,
long
at that
ass time ago.
Yeah, and I remember.
And watch, it'll end up being something that's completely, just was thrown in there, doesn't have any relevance or importance to her character.
No, see, this is the kind of thing when you have a mystery that the show is not trying to have any of the characters solve at any given point. That means that it's potentially already solved and you just aren't noticing it yet.
Yes.
So I am going to have my eyes open.
Oh my God, I can't wait for it to just be literally never brought up again. But we have a new character that was teased at the end of the previous episode that is not the owner of the dog, so they're still keeping that, on back burner for a little bit, let it simmer. But this character has very long hair, and we had another disagreement of whether it was white or very, very light, like lavender, violet. Yeah, exactly. But she also had a lighter, so maybe she's a rebel or something. Who knows?
If anything, she seemed like the type of character who has something to say to one of our classmates, but when all the noise and hubbub was going on in there, she decided against it. So she's a bit of a loner.
Right.
But there's something of import as to why she would go to that class.
And what is she doing in this snafu of a romantic comedy?
We shall find out.
Yeah.
So y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Well,
wow, this was a perfect episode.
God, that was good.
This was the best episode so far.
I did not expect that. We got the reveal, and I love that it was something that was being foreshadowed and built up to. Not even just foreshadowed, but it was an ongoing plot point of yes, the accident and things like that, and even his past experiences with girls and whatnot.
Yep.
And it's sort of this thing of, because of that end episode bit in the previous episode, we're like, this is going to be about something different. It's not about the whole thing with the accident and the dog and whatnot. Right. And we get into it, and it's a good story for the episode, right?
Yep.
It could have just been about that, and that would have been fine. That would have been great. But then...
we combo-womboed it.
Yeah.
And we brought in the fact that the sister is quite observant. And even though apparently her hair was a different color back then, she recognized Yui and was like, oh
my God.
It makes so much sense now why Yui basically kind of segued into their lives.
Because, and also, why she was like, oh, I'm a part of the club now, right? Also, the whole thing of calling him Hiki.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, did they know each other previously, or did they have some, did he have some reputation at the school and that's why she knows him? No.
She heard his sister.
Yeah.
His sister call him that. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So God.
Okay, that's really good. So now episode 5 in, we know a lot more about Yui, and then because of his monologue at the end, we know a lot more about Hachiman.
Yep, and it's stuff that we've kind of gotten the impression of up till now, but now it's like clearly defined, like this is his mantra as like his identity that he's taken for himself.
Kindness is a lie.
Yep.
Because kindness is used to either manipulate or to better oneself, or it's all the same. It's nothing special.
Yeah, and the truth hurts, so how can, kindness, that's just pretense.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, And once bitten, twice shy as a loner. That moment, that was so strong.
Yep,
wow.
no one's a better loser than me. Like
all the little dialogue bits in the episode that related to the things that were brought up later as basically setups for when you change the context of the dialogue, it suddenly means so much more.
Oh my God.
That was just really good.
And all the things that Yui said up till now, like that conversation where she's like, hey, I can't really butt in when you and Yukino are talking, right? And if you think about it, okay, so I don't think before then she really did any of her quips against Hachiman.
Not really.
Of being like, ooh, disgusting, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But what do we know about Yui? She's a people pleaser, right? She sees that Yukino, because of her cold exterior, right, was able to actually interact with Hachiman and get a connection, a response, right?
Some kind of feedback, yeah.
Right. So she ends up doing what she saw Yukino do, and it's super forced, right? Like when it
really
happens,
awkward.
we're like, it is totally awkward, but he quips back, right? So she's kind of getting, what she wants, sort of. Kind of.
Not really.
But not really.
Because she's not being herself.
She's not being herself.
Yep.
And oh my God. And then the whole thing of, and it's for a very particular reason that he's like, no, niceness is that's a lie. And, before you know it, like if you're not careful, just because someone's being polite, that if someone's being kind like you are with everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it clearly doesn't mean anything towards me, so you don't care about me. And if I let it go to my head, then I'll end up,
caring too much
I'll
about
end up caring, and I can't have that.
Nope,
so
I can't hope in that regard.
Oh my God. And this is all
really good.
5 episodes into this series.
Hachiman is probably like my favorite character at this point now because of this bit.
Oh, he's one of my
But I would say that what happened with Yui and the fact that this is kind of what's going on there, I know for a fact that I'm going to love all 3 of these characters for each like completely different reasons. Because one of the things that in some ways this episode kind of brought up was that each of them were insufficient to the task that they brought up here. All their ideas, all their specific little things didn't really amount to much.
No, they didn't.
Until they were basically willing to go and just set up a chance encounter here, where it was actually more a little bit of all of them working together. Like it needed every single person to be there and present for it, but it needed almost a little bit of the X factor of Hachiman's sister, for instance, to give a little wholesome little bit here of, hey, this is what the relationship between siblings is like when it's great. So, you could see it a different way, but, maybe you need to give a little bit of, a little bit of deference to your younger sibling there to give them that, that reminder that you care a lot. And it's like, like as someone who's the oldest of a big family, I'm like, oh, that's really sweet. Yeah, I do need to be reminded of that every once in a while. That's a really cool moment to pull out of the episode. But then, it didn't solve the issue immediately.
Right. It wasn't that the status quo changed necessarily in the literal things that were happening, but it was that the perspective and the understanding of what was happening was resolved. Right. That the relationship was fixed, or at least set on the road to being fixed. Rather than...
Or just at the very least, they just know what they're doing.
Exactly.
The questions and the concerns can be alleviated if they trust the other person.
Right.
So in this case here, you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. Once that communication happens, there's that opportunity for trust and connection to be built up and restored, and or just, I would say healthily addressed if they don't want it.
Yep.
But communication didn't fully happen here.
No.
Because the reasons why he basically kind of cut her off at this point here weren't expressed, because that's not something that Hachiman's comfortable sharing. And I don't think he should in any way share that. That's something that Yui might not be able to handle. Well,
and if Hachiman decides that isn't something that he feels comfortable sharing with people in general, and maybe specifically not with Yui,
right?
Cool, that's your choice.
Yeah.
The reason why this is something that, like,
Here we go.
when I say it bothers me, I don't mean it bothers me within the story. I love it within the story. This is really good, juicy stuff here, right? Yeah. Hachiman is quickly becoming one of my favorite anime protagonists with how this is being handled. I'm sure it's going to just continue to be handled as awesome as it was here.
Because we got 3 seasons to look forward to.
Right, but this bothers me because there's reason to it. There's some good stuff to it.
Yeah.
Hachiman is basically learned the hard way that, hey, guard your own heart, kind of a thing. And there is a lot of merit to that, right? But he doesn't realize just how much he is actually closing himself off, and it's all reactionary, and he's doing something that is changing his entire life and who he is as a person because, well, he doesn't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's what everyone does, though.
Oh,
that's
definitely.
what all these characters are doing.
Right. But he thinks that he's different. Right?
I don't think so.
Oh, really?
I don't think so. I think, if anything, he's drawn too much of a connection between something that doesn't come from the same source. Okay. He's basically equivocated that all kindness is a lie.
Right.
So he's, if anything, drawing too much of a connection between forces in his environment to all being tied back to something simple so that he can understand it, and thus have a universal reaction and way that he moves in response to it. But I don't think he sees himself as anyone necessarily special, other than he does tout himself as being one that is able to observe things as they really are.
Right. And that's why I think that's where I think the devious part of it is that and that's sort of where that like when I said that he was kind of similar to his Chunibyo friend, that was sort of the element of it, that he's saying, I see the world for how it actually is, right? Even if it's not with like crazy powers and monsters or whatever, superpowers and all the stuff that he gets up to with barriers and things. By him believing to himself that no, this isn't in response to pain. This isn't an overcompensation for a legit problem that happened, right?
Right.
This is actually me finally seeing the universe for how it really is.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That kind of judgment, though, leads towards a element of arrogance and condescension.
Exactly.
But I actually only see the condescension. I don't see him elevating himself, though. That's, I think, the problem, is that when you look at the way he moves and stuff, the reality that I think he accepts is that he, if anything, is forced to basically engage in this at times, and he hates that he has to do it at times. But if he can get any opportunity to kind of stick it to the system and how people do this for just his own kicks, he'll totally do that.
Sure.
But I don't think he sees himself as any better for it, except when he's kind of making a mock of it in the instances with things like the teacher and other stuff like that. But that's not him saying, like, I'm winning by doing this, or I'm even succeeding, or having any kind of like, look at how wonderful I am. No, I think there's way too much potential self-hatred wrapped up in what he's doing in order to have it be like that.
So what if it was both?
I can see it being both,
because
it's just context, matters.
Right. Because I could definitely see it being something where he has that I don't know if self-hatred is necessarily the right word, but it's
my catch-all term.
Yeah, right.
You're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the idea that the reason that it bothered him, the reason that it still bothers him, the reason that he still feels pain over it is because, I'm guessing, there's this element of, oh my God, how could I be so stupid, right? So it's
in the past. How was I so stupid?
Right, exactly. And then that informs his decisions in the present of, I'm not going to be that stupid person that I was, right? But it comes from that sense of frustration of the fact that he even had this problem to begin with.
Right. I do think though that the problem with why he's with saying that he's self-assured with regards to his worldview based on pain in his past is that whenever he comes into situations with like with what happened with Yui here, it would seem that he basically begins to doubt his own thing. So he has to mechanically bring it back up, his defenses, because he's getting lured in again.
Yes.
So he's like, no, I know how this goes.
Right.
He's not saying that I have a perfect defense system and I'm above that. He's like, no, I'm a sucker for that, but I will not be suckered in.
Right. I know better now. Right, exactly. It's not that he believes he's above it, but he is going to take on the stance, put on the armor that he now is above it because he used to not be before. And
I got you. I got you. The above below thing, I think, still kind of gets muddied when you think about how he seems to regard himself, though.
Okay. And I'm sure this is something that'll become more clear as the show delves more deeply into this kind of complex that he has regarding this topic. But as far as like a way to, like, with the amount of time that was actually spent on this revelation and his behavior as a result of the revelation at the end of the episode, compared to the rest of the episode, rest of the episode was the lion's share as far as screen time goes, right? Like this was, even though there were
15%,
right, and even though there were a bunch of things in this episode and in the episodes prior that were building up to this, that were setting up this moment to happen, it was able to communicate this much and be this powerful of a moment in just a minute or two. Like,
well, yeah, the biggest part was that he had no way of knowing that Yui was the one. He had no physical, recollection of what she looked like or anything like that. He had no, I would say, extremely overt things hinting that she was, this person there. And he only recently found out about how this person
goes to his
was
school.
Not only going to the school, but was going to try to meet up with him. So he didn't have a lot of time to do any of his own kind of passive observing,
right?
Regardless of whether he was actively looking for it or at all. But I feel like the reason why I have issues with the pride kind of thing of him seeing himself as above it is because of how freely he admits to being basically the biggest loser in how he basically does, life, in that regard.
I guess
it is a weird form of pride in that he's saying, I am the most skilled at it, and you'll find no one
feels like
better
a reverse
at it than me.
pride, where it's like my pride was hurt before, so I'm going to take pride in how I can have my pride hurt, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I would say it's an isolationist policy in a lot of ways with regards to relationships, but what we're finding, if anything, is that there are actually a lot of people who are now starting to come around him, and all he's really able to do at this point, in a way that I would say is an ego defense specifically, is when they throw barbs at him that are casual, like kind of humor jests that are actually quite nasty in some regards. He kind of goes, hey, what, do you have to go so overt with it? It's not something where we ever see him reeling with it emotionally, because either he's so dead inside to the thoughts and feelings of other people around him, to where he's like, I don't care what you think anyway. So, how's that do? But the fact that he responds at all means it does mean something.
Right, it means something. I have two sort of takes on what it might be for him. Is that one, it reinforces his worldview that kindness is a lie, right? So
this is the right way to interact with people.
So this is the right way to interact with people. I'm getting their sort of their honest opinions and things like that.
Thus I can be friends with them.
But also that whole thing of that, especially with regards to girls. They should never be nice to me, and I don't like it when they're nice to me. So that whole angle, But then 2, it gives him ammunition to reinforce his idea of I'm the greatest loser there is, because he gets to do that sparring, right? He gets to show that, oh yes, these kinds of things I can put on display for the world and myself, that when people say these kinds of things to me that have hurt me so much in the past, they don't hurt me at all anymore.
Yeah, I think that's all a lie.
Yeah.
I think that's all completely a lie. I think they definitely hurt him on some level because he's still he's still interacting with these people, and he does seek out at times little elements of connection, even if they're not that structured, if you will.
Yeah,
like he's still going to the to the club and everything.
The teacher is making him, but can she really make you do anything you don't want to do? Like
you're Hachiman, the one that decides I don't play the game. I am a Like
if you really wanted to, you wouldn't have to.
Right.
But
you do.
But you do.
Yeah, that's his lovely contradiction to me, is that he doesn't play the game until he plays the game. and then he's the biggest hypocrite in that regard. And it's such a lovely flaw for him because when he interacts with them, he likes it.
Human heart in conflict with itself.
Yeah, and yet,
there you go.
And yet, you won't allow anything more than that. That kind of that banter and stuff. Which I wanted to bring up this line as well. The idea of how he related to his sister, and basically said that she's like the perfect stranger or something like that.
Oh yeah.
What did he actually say in that regard?
Or was that him or his sister that said that?
No, that was him that said that.
Gotcha.
Here it is. Yeah. Is that what symbol? Yeah. Hold on.
Right.
It says, "Hey Kawasaki, do you know what a scholarship is?" All right, and then they end the whole conversation there. And then Yukino is like, "Is that what siblings are like?" Basically like, "Oh, that was interesting."
Right.
And then she's
like,
"I
don't have any, so."
Well, we don't know that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm guessing not, since she said, "Is that what siblings are like?" But
then she says you could also call them your closest strangers.
And she's like,
Yeah, of course. That I understand.
Definitely not talking about her parents or anything.
Well, right. But that's the thing. We don't know that means she has no siblings. She could have one of those situations, and this is when I actually just want to go out on a limb and throw a prediction out there, is there's a very common thing when divorces happen, that there's either a really young and old sibling dynamic where one of them is way older, and this is either that Yukino is potentially the child of the new marriage where she's really young, and then from the old marriage there's another sibling that's like way older,
right,
so she never interacts with them.
Because of marriage division or things like that.
Yeah.
For some reason, if she does have a sibling,
right,
they're basically strangers.
What I think you're getting at is that she doesn't live with any siblings, but given her age, all it would need is really for the sibling to be 3 or 4 years older, and she just doesn't see them much at all.
I'm still going to put my money on the fact that, like, the idea that she's talking about her parents because her dad was brought up in this episode.
I think that's a great thing to acknowledge. Yeah,
because that was the other thing.
It makes sense. Yeah,
like that was the other thing that kind of surprised me of this episode. Like, I mean, okay, this whole episode was basically a surprise, right? Because like, with the episodes that we've gotten up till now, they would either directly focus on the main 3, it seemed, or they would focus on side characters to sort of elevate their status as a character within the show, right? Upgrade them a little bit so we know who they are, we know what their struggles are, and then we can have them in future episodes and have it not be weird, who is this kind of a thing, right?
Right.
In this episode, though, even though it didn't directly involve any of the 3 main characters, all 3 of them got quite a bit of new sort of revelation about who they were as a person.
Yeah.
Of course, the obvious ones with Yui and Hachiman, but then also with Yukino, with the whole thing of the situation with her dad, right? In the bar, right? That's not at all like, doesn't sound like a politician or or something of that sort, right?
Yeah.
But getting into that whole idea of her living on her own, but having all these really nice dresses and
needing to be kind of the perfect daughter or something like that.
Right. What's the story there exactly?
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things that for me it makes me really sad, because it gives me the vibe that she is the endgame girl, basically, because she's not being gone into in too much depth yet. But is getting like the more long-term, it seems, foreshadowing. And then with Yui, it's a lot more like immediately like upfront of, oh, okay, she seems like she might have a crush on him. Oh, there's already heartbreak happening and things like that. Sure. And I love Yui. Like, Yui is amazing. Yui, yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't really say which one is Endgame, but I would almost go on a limb and say this is kind of the kind of show where there doesn't have to be a happy relationship at the end of it.
That's true. I hope there is.
I almost hope there's not.
Oh, man, I hope there is, because... You know, we've got time, like, because
we do have time. Yeah.
In my favorite like romantic comedy kind of anime that I've gotten into, it was usually quite obvious who the actual endgame character was.
It was,
and then it was more about enjoying the journey, whether it was a serious journey or
which is what makes for a good romantic comedy.
Right, exactly. You got to enjoy the journey.
Yep.
But in this, I'm really not sure, but I'm getting a feeling, but that. Yeah.
I think your feeling is right. I think it's about 30% to like 40% likely that it's not going to end up in any relationship. But I would say just around the same level is going to be the Yukino, Hachiman ending. But then that leaves only like, 20 to 30%, if anything, for, Yui.
Why is it the super emotionally led girls, whether they're, Genki or not, but why is it that they almost never have like the happy ending? Like,
because in some ways their happy ending is that they need to be happy with themselves, because their happiness is usually a lie.
Where does their happiness come from? Kind of thing.
Right. And it's more important that they find their happiness in self-confidence and being that regard. So anyway, but
that's way future stuff. Might not even be right about that.
But this episode had a lot of comedy to it. The black lace bit was hilarious. I loved I loved the sister in this episode. She was doing a lot of funny stuff as well.
The sister was wonderful. I loved Zaimakuza coming in for the maid cafe thing because the whole idea of like, okay, it's a maid cafe. I'm like, all right, this show does love to sort of play on the tropes, So let's get it, even though there's two places and they're getting into outfits and stuff when we haven't even seen her here. All right, cool. And we
know why they're here then.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though when they said Angel, I was like, okay, it's going to be a maid cafe. That's literally like what I thought. And then they showed up. I'm like, yep, here we go. And I thought...
Call in the expert.
Right. I thought like, okay, then this is something that, is just... they're doing this for the fun of it. But I was already thinking along the lines of, at this point, it has to be the second job, because I was thinking of Hinamatsuri.
Oh.
And the thought, literally, of the bar came up to my mind, but I didn't say anything.
Really?
Because I was thinking of Hinamatsuri with regards to this. And then when they started going to the maid cafe, I was like, oh, I was wrong. I guess it's not going to be the maid cafe. And then they show up at the bar. I'm like, you should have said something. I couldn't believe it. Wow.
I gotta say, the character designs in this were fantastic. The new outfits and everything. But this also, I feel like, I'm probably reading way too much into this, right? But because of how this show loves to sort of take the tropes and then make fun of them, right?
Okay, yeah.
We get the, at first glance, this could be the episode where, they get to go to a maid cafe, so we get to see them in all these awesome maid outfits or whatever, right? And, they go through the montage, and it's cool.
We even get to see Saki in a maid outfit.
Exactly, because that has to happen.
Yep.
But then we go to the classy place, right? And these are where the outfits actually look really cool, right? Like, and...
oh, baby.
That felt like it might have been a little bit of
Hachiman
commentary.
Cleans up.
Oh, yeah. Hachiman, cleaned up good, even though he very much looked like he could have been Yakuza or something. Like with sort of the hair kind of going back in the open collar and
Gotcha. I thought that, if anything, showed his little bit of lack of knowing how exactly to look really good.
Still going casual in a classy outfit kind of a thing.
Well, right, but it's the classic kind of young guy kind of thing of where you don't actually like dressing up like this.
So you don't really know how to do it.
So you don't really know how to do it. Exactly.
Right, whereas Yukino's like, all right, let me just make my hair absolutely fabulous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they also could be setting up basically the scene of where we have like I don't know, some kind of a formal event of some kind, like a dance or something.
Yep.
And Yui only has the one dress or something, so we get to see her in it again. And then, of course, Yukino has like, 50 dresses or something.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But,
I'm okay. Maybe this is way tinfoil territory here,
Go
right?
for it.
But if it ever gets to the point where the characters start being open with each other, not necessarily with their crush, but with each other about their crush and the fact that they have it.
Oh, okay.
Then we could get something where Yui is basically like I could totally see Yui and Yukino basically both being at her place and her being like, okay, let's pick out some dresses, right? And then there could be potentially
for Yui?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And then maybe there could be some conversations if there ends up being any kind of romantic tension or just a feeling maybe of being replaced, given the fact that Hachiman doesn't like nice girls, right? And Yui has kind of been imitating Yukino, and apparently it hasn't really been working. I don't know. There's lots of emotions that I feel like can get teased apart.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, and I definitely could see those emotions getting brought up in the context of Yukino and Yui being alone together.
And
but
I guess
I don't think they'd be that overt yet.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to happen anytime soon, and it doesn't have to be within the dressing room. It's just something that I like from the standpoint of like, what sort of persona do they put on, and what do they Yeah.
Yeah. But God, I love this melodrama. Like as far as the miscommunication drama, the problems with what's going on
the
in
stubbornness of the characters,
in Hachiman's like head with regards to this, and the fact that he did feel that. Like there was a brief bit of animation where once she kind of looks up, he looks up and sees that she's got tears in her eyes. He had this moment of like his breath being caught in his throat of like oh no, and then she baka and then just walks away, runs away. And I'm like, this is why
I have personal feelings about this show now. Like I liked this show before now, but now it's like
now you love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. You can also check out our Twitch channel.
Yes, that's right. We stream Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Mondays podcast, Tuesdays One Piece manga readings, dramatic voices. Wednesday and Friday Caleb does gaming.
I'm playing Hades right now.
Yep, and then Thursday I do gaming, which is Persona 4 Golden right now.
So yeah, check that out, and if any of it interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.